Jay Walker is by far one of the most interesting characters that we have in Ninjago. Whilst my favourite ninja has always consistently been Cole, Jay has definitely always been a standout for me depending on the time frame that we have had him in, because it goes without saying that Jay has had some really high highs but some really low lows. And the thing is that depending on when you could have made a video like this one, the conclusion on how Jay is as a character and where he's going from this point would be very different. But I am honestly very happy to say that I truly do believe that Jay is going to be approaching another one of his highs, and honestly, he's already kind of there. But to really understand and appreciate how far Jay has come and how good Jay is now in Dragon's Rising, we really need to consider the points that he has been in beforehand, because it took a lot for him to get to this point, and to really appreciate it, like I said, you have to see him at his absolute lowest. So let's talk about that, and let's understand how Jay in Dragon's Rising in particular has certainly made one of the biggest comebacks in Ninjago, because it goes without saying that he has gone from potentially one of the most hated characters to one of the most loved. Now, to understand what the fans expect of Jay when it does come down to it, you need to understand what he is really at a baseline. He is of course the former Blue Ninja. He is of course something else currently in Dragon's Rising, but for the most part he is regarded as being the elemental master of lightning. He is of course very much light-hearted, he makes a lot of jokes, he's very energetic, he has a lot of different personality traits, very quirky in nature. He does have his negative sides, but we will get into that later. But the thing is that for the most part, he is a very light-hearted character. But the thing is that the personality of Jay definitely does get mutilated in a lot of different ways throughout the course of the show. And this is where I'm going to outline the highs and lows right now. He has 2 highs and 1 low. The first high is the first 10 seasons of Ninjago. Then the low is the Wild Brain era. And then we go back into the high at the end of Dragon's Rising. And I'm going to show how each and every single personality trait has gone through that exact same wave of emotion. Take one of the first interesting aspects of Jay's character, which was the fact that he was an inventor. It is something that was portrayed relatively consistently throughout the course of the first 10 seasons of Ninjago, and in the Wild Brain era, it's completely gone. But the thing I don't see a lot of people talk about is the fact that Dragon's Rising actually did bring that back. In the first 10 seasons, you may not see it in every single season, but the thing is that it's definitely sprinkled across it. Of course, in the pilot, we see Jay with his inventions as he's introduced, and we do get to see the ninja use them to get the nunchucks of lightning. In season 1, we get to see Jay fix up the bouncy and make it able to fly. In season 2, he is remarked at helping Nia fixing up the radar, and then it kind of becomes a little more quiet from that point onwards, but you do actually get to see the odd occasion throughout the seasons where he does help up mechanically. I mean, take in season 8 for example, where he's also helping fix up the bounty. The thing is that he was portrayed being very handy, and it's a very cool aspect to actually have. However, in the Wild Brain era, what you'll notice is that Jay never has those kind of instances. He comes across like he doesn't necessarily know what to do. There's not an instance where he actually demonstrates actually being the inventor that he truly is, which is honestly just a massive shame, because there could have been some opportunities to have done it. But the thing is that in Dragon's Rising, it seems to be that Inventor Jay is actually back. Like I said, I haven't actually seen many people talk about it, but if you look at it, it actually does make sense to consider that it is. Because when he does become Rogue, you see him with these lightning blades, with that flying suit that he has all these different weapons and technologies that seemingly come out of nowhere. However, the thing is that we do know for a fact that Jay trusts absolutely no one. So it makes sense to believe that he's actually the one making his own items. I mean, look no further than the fact that the suit that he uses to fly around is very, very similar in design to the first ever glide pack that he made back in the pilots. It is near enough identical in their generalized design, just a little more fine-tuned. It's almost like Jay improved on his own design, and almost like the inventor is certainly returning. In my opinion, it's the most definitive way to show that there are highs and lows of Jay. I mean, it is quite literally, he starts out with a trait, he loses the trait, and then it comes right back. And I'm gonna be honest, this is only the smallest aspect when it does come to Jay on this. So, I want to give you more examples. The second thing to me is definitely when it comes down to the intelligence of Jay. The thing is as well is that his intelligence pattern follows the exact same cycle that we actually do get to see when it did come to his inventor status. In the first era of Ninjago, a lot of people actually misconceived Jay's lighthearted nature as stupidity, when in reality, he's actually anything but, and there's so much to suggest that that is the case. The first 10 seasons actually does show Jay really smart, especially in a combat scenario. Jay has a very weird tendency on having really good ideas at the exact correct moment. It takes a different level of intellect to be able to accomplish some of the things that he does. In Season 6, he makes multiple combat decisions across every single episode that is very smart of him, but if you want a specific example, I mean take the entirety of the Lighthouse Siege. The thing is that Jay, in one instance, instead of fighting 10 Sky Pirates on a Raid Zeppelin, he just disables the Raid Zeppelin. When he wants to go and help Nia, he takes himself out of the situation by the enemy's own hand. When he is about to be lured into Nardacon's hands, he actually throws themselves out of the building itself. He makes multiple different decisions that are very smart in nature. It is really interesting to actually see this. In Season 7, when he's under the threat of the slow motion Time Blade, he uses his elemental power of lightning to be able to speed himself up in reaction to the slow motion. Balancing out time using his own elemental power is not something someone who is stupid would even consider. Honestly, again, absolutely genius. In Season 8, faced against the Oni Titan, when he realizes that his elemental power is too weak to be able to do anything, he notices that by chance, the Oni Titan is right next to a power line. So instead of using elemental power by himself, he channels the power from the actual energy within those lines, and he uses his elemental power that way. Again, something that not many people would even consider to do in that moment. It was a very sharp decision from Jay on a very small detail. It goes to show he is very smart when it does come down to the fight. And I love that because it goes to show that Jay's lighthearted nature should not make you underestimate him because he is very fierce in a fight. I absolutely love that aspect of Jay and I really do wish it continued. And even though he definitely does have those fight scenes that are very cool in the WildBrain era, you can see that there is a difference in the intelligence of him. Jay makes some very questionable decisions when it comes to combat scenarios in the WildBrain era, and the thing is that it's such an interesting contrast because it goes to show that they did honestly dumb him down when it does come down to it, and the example actually does come from Seabound. An older version of Jay, in terms of the show's life cycle, would not have made the decision that he did when he went up against Kalmar. Jay, in a fit of anger, just jumps towards Kalmar and starts berating him with Wu's staff. The thing is that I don't think Jay would have done that whatsoever in a previous instance, and I do think it honestly comes across quite dumb. But the thing is that you can obviously claim that he was quite emotional in that situation, he was worried about Nia, so on and so forth. But the thing is that in Skybound, where he's faced with the exact same scenario of the potential threat when it does come to Nia, he does not make silly decisions whatsoever. He's actually still fairly intelligent when it does come to a fight. And honestly, it shows that there is a contrast when it does come to how they portray Jay's intelligence. And it's not even like Jay in the WildBrain era is just stupid when it comes to combat. There are so many scenarios where he does just come across silly in a lot of different ways, and just really goes to show that they didn't write him with any sort of intelligence in mind. The main thing that always comes to my mind is from Master of the Mountain, when the Queen of the Mud is very clearly hitting on Jay right in front of Nia. And the thing is that by all accounts he entertains it, and you can see that Nia is completely uncomfortable and also angry at the exact same time at the fact that Jay was doing that. But he is completely oblivious to it. Jay would have noticed that within a heartbeat if it was in the original era of the show. And this is not me just bashing the WildBrain era, I want to make that clear, but I'm saying that there is a very clear difference in how Jay reacts to situations, especially during these times. Because like I said, Jay would have been completely attentive to Nia if this was only a few seasons before, but in this instance, he is just completely oblivious and just downright stupid because of it. But luckily again, it seemingly is fixed in Dragon's Rising. The thing is that Jay comes across quite smart in Dragon's Rising. He comes across quite tactical, like he knows what he's doing and everything that he does is timed. Take no better instance than when they sneak back into the administration in Season 3 Part 2. Jay prepares for every sort of eventuality. He knows the people that he's against, he knows exactly how to disarm any situation that he is in. The WildBrain era Jay would not have done that whatsoever. He would have just ran in and hoped for the best. Jay has something prepared for every situation and again is quite smart in a fight. Jay knows exactly when to use what, how to use it, and exactly what to do in any given moment. He comes across extremely intelligent in these situations, and honestly, it's just really refreshing to see because it does feel much more back to form. But again, it just goes back to the point of highs and lows. Jay feels so smart in the first 10 seasons, and he feels smart in Dragon's Rising. It's just in season 11, Fruit Till Crystallize, he just doesn't feel like that whatsoever. And honestly, that is one of the biggest problems that I have with him. But it's by far not the biggest at all. One of the biggest aspects of Jay for me when it comes to the highs and lows of him is the emotional intelligence and the mental state that Jay is in throughout the course of the show. Because I think Jay is one of the most complex characters that we have ever seen, and it's really interesting to see. But again, at his low point, it honestly has one of the worst scenes I've seen in Ninjago. The thing about Jay that no one really gets to realize until Skybound is the fact that he's honestly a very anxious person. He has a lot of anxiety, he has a lot of fear when it does come down to the situations that he is in. And again, Skybound just goes on and proves that that is the case. It is completely established in Skybound that Jay covers up all of the fear and all the anxiety that he has through his jokes. And the thing is that you can backdate that to every single season of Ninjago so far. Take no better than the example of the end of season 1. When the Great Devourer destroyed the bounty and was going towards Ninjago City, Jay was beyond terrified for his family, for his friends, and for everyone that he loves around him. And he goes into this hysterical rant, just kind of joking around in a way, but also talking about what they're going to do to be able to survive. And the thing is that the ninja discount it just simply as Jay being Jay, when in reality, Jay was panicking. Jay was in a very bad mental state at that point. He was fearing for the lives of everything and everyone that he knows. And honestly, it was very interesting to see Jay in that light when you look back at it. And that's not even the biggest thing for me. In season 6, it is established that Jay is in fact adopted. His biological parents are not Ed and Edna. They are actually Cliff Gordon and the original Elemental Master of Lightning. And Jay has a very interesting conversation when it does come down to that information. A younger version of Jay, and the version of Jay that is a big fan of Fritz Donegan, would have had so much fun knowing that fact. His father was a superhero. His father was this big cool celebrity. A version of Jay, or a younger version of Jay, would have absolutely have loved that information. However, Jay remarks at the end of season 6 that Nodacon telling him that information doesn't hold an effect over him, and that Ed and Edna are his real parents. They are truly the ones that are the parents of Jay Walker. And honestly, it is such a fantastic scene, because it shows the emotional depth when it does come to Jay. Because when Jay was in a very dire situation, the Traveler's Tea took him to his parents. And even though they say, well, he's not actually ours, but he is at the same time, it never mattered to Jay whatsoever. Ed and Edna are his parents, and honestly that scene was really cool to see. But by all accounts, Prime Empire completely ruined that scene for me. The thing is that Jay has a remark with Unagami, and I honestly really don't like it for a very particular reason, and it comes down to the wording. Jay says to Unagami, and I quote, "I was abandoned by my parents too. I am just like you." And there is something about that line in particular that inherently bugs me, because Jay has established the fact that it never truly mattered to him beforehand, and in this scene he kind of goes back on it to basically declare that, oh well, he was abandoned by his biological parents, and it comes into a different factor when it comes into Jay. Now you can say he's just saying that to calm down Unagami, but I do think it comes from too much sincerity when it comes to it. You can look at how Jay reacts in that situation. He is being sincere. But the problem is that that line comes across very much like he's almost mad or upset about the fact that his biological parents did abandon him. But like I said, season 6 establishes that Jay doesn't feel that way, and that's why it feels so inconsistent to me. It just makes Jay come across bitter. It just makes Jay come across angry. It makes Jay come across as something that doesn't like that information. But the thing is that it does just feel like a complete contradiction to what we know before. And the thing is that Jay is so well written in season 6, I am so inclined to take how he feels in that season over this one. And honestly, it just makes Jay feel like he's at a whole new low to me. Because it just makes him sound resentful and angry, if anything. And he's allowed that, but the thing is that how he phrases the line makes it sound like he's angry at the fact that he doesn't actually have his biological parents in his life. But again, season 6 establishes that that's just not how Jay ever saw it. And that's why it just feels like a low. because it feels like it has taken everything when it does come to Jay and has just completely ruined it. It feels like it took all that development when it comes to Jay's emotional state and has just completely thrown it out the window in the event of needing an offhanded line to make Jay relate to a different villain. Honestly, I feel like this is the moment a lot of people will disagree with me on, but I truly do feel this way when it does come to Jay. It just feels wrong, and that's why it feels like a low. I mean, even if they did want to include a line like that, they could have just worded it in a different way that made it sound different. Because, of course, the whole thing with Unagami is that he just wants to know why. Of course, he just wants to understand what actually it means when it comes to his true purpose. And of course, like I said, Jay tries to relate to him by using that line. But Jay could have said something different. He could have said, hey, I didn't know my biological parents, and that's fine. I never got the answers, and I was able to carry on, and I was able to do good regardless. You know, he could talk about how he made his own path, he made his own journey in life, and he found people who did truly love him. And you could have had a really cool moment when it did come to the two. But no, just make Jay look better! But don't worry, because I do feel like Dragon's Rising is improving on the mental state of Jay. Of course, we haven't had too much of it because Jay for the most part has been very mysterious, but at the end of Season 3 Part 2, it does feel very good to see Jay in that state. Someone who has shattered their goodness, shouldn't really be at the point of being able to return, has had a very cool moment with Nia, where he realizes that he does want to do good, and he realizes that she is actually making him want to do that. I really like that scene, and again shows a lot of emotional depth for Jay. And again, because of it, feels like a new high. But yeah, I got a little angry at this one, but I hope you guys understand why. Because to look at it on an overall, in my opinion, in the simplest way possible, the 3 eras of Jay and the highs and lows of Jay is quite literally, he starts off on a high for the first 10 seasons, the Wildbrain era feels like a low, and he has definitely come back in Dragon's Rising. And I feel like I have proved that in terms of his personality. I mean, I haven't done the standard things that a lot of people like to talk about, like the differences in his voice, because ultimately that's just a creative decision, whereas this is more of a character writing based problem for me. And I just feel like it makes sense to look at it in this way. I just feel like Jay was in such a very cool place when it does come to the original era of Ninjago, and it just feels like the Wildbrain era just simply didn't know what to do with him. It feels like they just took the standard character traits that we know of Jay and just completely flanderized him because of it. They just took a certain aspect of Jay and just ran with it, which is the very silly, very lighthearted, very bubbly character that a lot of people loved because there was the contrast. But when you take away the contrast, it just left us with what we got. But like I said, it just feels lucky that Dragon's Rising is definitely really bringing that nosedive up. It definitely feels like they now know what to do with Jay, and it feels like they actually have something set out when it does come to Jay. Because he is one of the best written characters currently in Dragon's Rising, and is definitely making his way back into some of my favorite characters in all of the show. And I do really like to see that. But it does just feel like it's a massive shame that we had to have a very low point of Jay and a few years of Jay just being kind of a terrible character to be able to really see how good he could truly be. And that's just kind of what I want to take away from this video. The highs and lows of Jay Walker are definitely there. We definitely have some fantastic instances of Jay, but definitely some terrible instances of him at the exact same time. And I do take some personal issue with a lot of it, but I do really feel like we're getting there now. I feel like we're actually getting somewhere really good with this character, and I do feel like we're actually going to be at a point where he could finally be a fantastic character once more. What does the future hold for Jay? I don't really know. I mean, Dragon's Rising could go in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of debate as to whether or not Jay will get his memory back. The only thing I hope is that if he does, they don't revert him back to his Wildbrain era, and they really do keep up with what they have with him so far. I really do think he is in a good place. It's just I hope that the writers do continue to do what they have been doing amazingly so far. But just like that, those are the highs and lows of Jay Walker. I honestly am very much invested in this character. I'm very much happy with the state he's in. It's just I had to acknowledge the fact that he wasn't in a good place for a very long time. And that's what I want to know. Do you like Wildbrain era Jay? Do you like how he was during these seasons? Do you think I've misconceived some of the points that I've talked about in this video? Do you think I'm wrong about the Unagami scene? Personally, I don't think I am. I really don't like how Jay worded himself in that scene, and I definitely feel like it's valid when you do take earlier Jay into consideration. But I would like to know what you think of that scene, and if you have a different interpretation. And overall, what is your favorite era of Jay? Do you prefer his very original era? Do you prefer where he's at now? Do you prefer new Jay? Or do you prefer the mid-zone Jay that I've talked about? Like I said, I would love to hear it. But that is about it for today, you guys. And thank you very much for watching. Take care. Okay,